Welcome to Master Student, where knowledge is true wealth.
Why is it so hard? Why do you think it's so hard for a person? They're already so called woke, but to go into the cult like that, a person could stick their foot in a lot of things. They could get involved in a lot of things, brother Panic. But when it comes to that occult shit, they're like, nah, not that. I could try this. I could try that. I could try this. But that occult, that's going just a little bit too far, my brother. Why is the occult
Understood.
such a, it's like, don't go there. Why is it like that with us, my brother?
Understood. Because what I tend to notice, the most effective thing, if you're in a war and the object is to keep you out of the most effective thing to transform you, is going to be looked at as the worst thing that you can ever engage in. So you're talking about some baseline understandings that you've been given or programmed or mind controlled into that we cannot get past, or it can be applied to certain forward moving thinking. So we just have this idea of good, bad, dark, light as this evil thing, just straight out from religion and from this idea of everything black is evil, everything white. These are core mind control war tactics. And when you're left alone in a forward thinking situation, you tend to apply what you know. In fact, you have to apply what you know because that's the way your subconscious mind works. It only can deal with what it has convinced itself of or what you have convinced it of and accepted. So these things are a core understanding and a core acceptance. And occult is just the word alone people have a problem with. All it means is hidden culture. So it's really just talking about a underground or underworld, or what has been called the underworld way of thinking, to apply actually effective, but let's say the least you can say, effective light way to handle your life. Let's just say that. We won't even talk about forward. Just the way to handle your life. There's two ways of looking at things. There's a surface way, and then there's a underground way, or a subconscious way, or a subliminal way, or the underworld way. And that's really, or the hidden culture way, the occult way. So the occult is the true understanding or the true science of how we used to manage our reality here. And now in the war scenario, that word and the understanding has been used, has been weaponized against you. So black people who I don't know what they're trying to figure out. They're really, if at the end of the day, all they're really trying to figure out or expand on is what Martin Luther King told them, really, if you really get down to it, you know, how to do this, how to do that as this unit. But the occult understood you had to understand the nature of yourself. You had to understand where it is you belong in a holistic portion of the universe and this planet for you to be able to even offer something to your people. We have nothing, know nothing, but yet keep talking about offering something to black people. It's ridiculous. It's an oxymoron. If you don't know who you are, what can you even offer to anybody? You can't even offer shit to your family if you don't know in the fuck what you are. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So forget the black race and economics and whatever else that we keep begging white people to understand us for and each other to understand us. You need to understand who you are. And there's a hidden understanding to who you are. There's a true background understanding. We call it the occult understanding or the metaphysical, beyond the physical, thinking that goes beyond or reaches beyond the physical. The connotations now have been connected to evil or dark. And it's really pathetic and childish, and it's just an extension of your slave training that must be broken for you to even be able to make any progress. Because I can speak to my personal progress once I got in the occult. All the things that people try to cheerlead and make a wish list for, I've accomplished those with that, my family, and helped those around me reach those things. People who said they stopped listening to me and started doing some of the things I said has noticed a major difference in their life. And this is because this is the way. And that's why it's looked at and demonized the most because it's one of the most effective, if not the most effective way to handle our business.
Indeed. Brother Panic, why do you think you have a different approach from a lot of other not just speakers, but there's a lot of groups, let's say the Christian group, this group, the Jehovah group, the conscious group, all these different groups. You're not out there trying to convert nobody. You bring what you bring to the table, and if the people want to take it, they take it. But a lot of people, they really make it an effort to try to convert people. What is it about these people that they want to convert somebody so bad, and you don't really care about converting nobody?
Right, because there's an egotistical Christ complex that most people adopt. You know what I mean? A preacher. This is just another extension of their training about how to do it. This messianic figure in the misunderstanding of what that means. Martin Luther King was built up and made, and he was made for a reason. He was the idea to keep you focused on something that can never really save you, but you will keep trying to duplicate it in many ways of many different philosophies. Even Malcolm X, to put him in opposition. We're not even talking about the message. Just to put him in that position of opposition, is because not everyone is going to be a Martin Luther King or have that philosophy. But even if you have the same template with a different message, it still does the same damage of having people believe that someone can save you, when the reality is there's only one entity that can save you, and that's yourself. So me understanding that at the core, I don't sell any false tickets of hope, only a reality. And the reality is no one can save you but yourself. So the only thing I can do is hope to help with tools that you can save yourself with. So giving it to you straight is the order of the game. Surprisingly, a lot of black people want to hear that. In a social situation, they love to hear how wonderful and the economy and all the rest of those things that sound good. But when it's just me and them on email, I get thank yous and your welcomes, and they tell me about their personal progress, because socially, I may not fit in 100%, but something speaks to a lot of what's in people's hearts. And you'll know, like I know, I'm just as surprised as you how many people show up without me having to argue and having to kiss their ass and tell them how wonderful and magical they are just because they have melanin. None of that. Never have. And still, people want to hear truth. They love to hear socially how wonderful in their goddess because they have a vagina. But at the same time, they rather hear someone tell them something real because they understand personally they're not making any progress having their ego appeased or somebody sprinkling sugar all over them every day, telling them, their dreads are wonderful and, you're woke. All of that is nice and a good thing to say, but it's not true progress. True progress, if we're trying to figure out reality here, then you need to hear what's real. And we need to talk about our condition in a very real way. So I'm dedicated to that. Talking about our condition in a very real way. Mm-hmm. So, because that's the only way we're actually truly going to make something happen. If we keep telling ourselves how wonderful we are, you know what I mean, we're not going to deal with the true mind control that we're suffering from.
We're all familiar when we go to sleep. When we go to sleep and we dream at night, and we understand that it's a dream, and once we dream and we wake up and we go on with our everyday life. What we're coming to realize now is that this thing we call reality is also a dream where God's dreaming. So when we say, when you're dreaming and there might be somebody in your dream, a man or a woman or a family member that's just a family member in the dream or whatever. When you wake up, you're not thinking about the people in that dream. So when somebody leaves this realm, let's say a family member of yours, a family member of mine, do they think about us in this realm? Because this is just the dream realm. So why would they think of somebody that's just in the dream world, just like we don't think about somebody who was in our dream last night or the night before? You get what I'm saying?
Right, but Definitely. Well, we got to understand everything's happening from our perspective, and everything that we called in the so-called dream is symbolic.
Mm.
And the irony of it all is what we call real life is actually the true dream, and the symbols that are happening that we call our life as Brother Rich, Brother Panic, Sister such and such. That's the actual dream that when we truly wake up from it, it'll be just like it'll go away, as you were talking about, like how we have our dream every night when we go to bed, and it'll be a memory. It'll be the thought is actually what is the equation that we're trying to figure out, as opposed to something that happened to us as a race of people, as slavery, and as all the rest of those things. Now, your subconscious mind is talking to you through symbols every night you go to sleep, and that's actually a little bit more real than what your ego talks to you all day about as you walk around the planet. So it's got to be switched around. So the dream, or what we call the dream, is actually the true story, or your spirit actually having a true conversation with you while your ego is actually sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
The ego is what's awake all day. The ego is actually in the dream. The ego is in the fantasy world. You know what I mean? The ego is the one walking around here with this idea of yourself, this big and bad idea of yourself that doesn't even exist. So panic doesn't exist. What's real and what you're seeing as family members and all the rest of those things are people who are sharing this dream with you. And they're sharing this dream for the purpose of, when it's all said and done, for a true understanding of an equation or a question you answered yourself. Every life is a question, is a long stretched out answer or a long stretched out understanding. So when you wake up from that dream, is all you really doing is studying the answer to a question that you asked called panic, or was answered with someone called Panic or someone called Brother Rich. So it has to be looked at from a different perspective. We have a egocentric perspective, so a dream seems like something that we have, or you know what I mean. It seems like it's all happening from a reaction to from the ego, but the true idea is actually. It's all the other stuff that we call the fantasy, the dream, the daydream, the aha moments, and all of those. That's actually a taste of what's real, a taste from the world of the real.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have to turn it around. The occult understanding, we have to turn it around, and what this is, it's a way or understanding. Let's take the escalator, sweetie. It's a way or understanding of how we actually start to investigate and understand the nature of the ego by first putting it in its proper perspective, not giving it the spotlight in our mind that we have been giving it. Like, most people want to say black people because they just mad at white people. It's the ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when you sit down and get to it, they don't even care about black people on a certain kind of level. And if you really, and you know, I don't really even have to say much just by your laugh.
Yeah,
that's a clear understanding of that. I don't even have to go into detail. It's just really what they're just mad at, that they heard about slavery. You know, it's like with this Kanye West nonsense. Like conscious people shouldn't even be entertaining that ignorance. You get what I'm saying? There was a time we would talk about the madness of him and wouldn't even have to deal with the details. Everything's a choice. Smoking crack is a choice. but I don't see how today's black people could be so flip about saying, yeah, we all had a choice and I would have made this or that choice when it did nothing. You go to work every day now. You know what I'm saying? You pay your rent and your bills now without protest. You make a choice to do that now. You're a slave now. By the standard of the Moors, you're an absolute slave now. So you're a slave now. I don't get this. So these type of, see, when you run out of stuff and there's nothing happening internally, you find yourself entertaining dumb motherfuckers who's trying to sell their albums. And that's the sad part, because metaphysics runs into an end. Because if I had to say there was a difference, which is not really, but let's say for the sake of this argument, metaphysics and the occult. Metaphysics is beyond the physical, and it talks in detail beyond the physical. But the occult is actually actively working within the on self. Let's just say that it's actually having self-realizations. It's actually dealing with methodology, and that could be almost never ending, virtually never ending. Metaphysics, you run out of stuff to talk about. After you finish talking about it and nothing's happening, you find yourself feeling the same way you do, with just a lot more information. And then you find yourself talking about everything else, but you find yourself talking about conspiracies and Kanye West's and all the rest of the stuff that is absolutely worthless, because there's nothing to do. So I always urge and always stress methodology, straight methodology, straight something to do, so you can have self-realization. It's all about aha moments. It's all about breakthroughs. This arguing about Kanye West is just nothing more than bickering about an idiot, a clear idiot. He's under mind control. If you study MK Ultra, he's the classic alter. He's the classic. The Kardashians is a coven of witches. Like, this is common knowledge. Before he gets down to something that's supposed to be so deep, this is common knowledge. He coming out with blonde hair. Like, I mean, like, let's say he's supposed to be talking about freedom. He only made the opposite choice from Obama, who called him a jackass. That's the only reason he's standing there. This is all pathetic. This is all pathetic. And it's scary pathetic. And just to see conscious people even involving themselves in this it shows that we ran out of stuff to do. We ran out of stuff to do. And this is why we have to turn this attention back on ourselves and understand guys like Kanye West is lost. Even if it's not in his consciousness, it's just that he's selling rap music. He's a businessman. And we need to understand just the nature of that. He's saying things to get your attention. And the mere fact that he can get conscious people's attention, this would never fly before. That's because we ran out of stuff to do. It went on blast once we got on Facebook, and this thing went to the internet level. This thing just ran itself out into nowhere. And we find ourselves talking about this stuff to try to entertain each other with it, and it's actually really pathetic. Really pathetic. And all of this is because of one small thing. We are not turning this understanding or this study inwardly into our own personal understanding of who and what we are for the purpose of our own transformation. We're trying to do this as a unified or a group, as some sort of a group effort, and it's not working. It never has worked. What were we, 7? I'll be in a second. We're trying to do this as a group effort. Yeah, I'm trying to concentrate. Let me get in a place where I can concentrate.
Okay.
All right, so now we're trying to do this as some sort of group effort, and it's not working. So what we need to do is understand the nature and understand when we say the word occult, it just really means you were born here by yourself, and you came with a question. And you need to figure that one out by yourself. It's not going to happen as a group of black people. We have nothing to offer. We have nothing to offer. We don't know who we are. We're looking towards, it's the blind leading the blind. We're looking towards blind men to lead us. And we see this all the time. We see this all the time. You see YouTube people having nervous breakdowns. But just the year before, we were looking to them for all the answers. And now they're having nervous breakdowns. And this is because it's not designed to work this way. This is something you are supposed to figure out yourself. And I know it seems like hard or vague, but it's not. No one's never once tried. We've always looked in answers from other folks. We always looked for answers as a group, or we're looking for this one answer that satisfies us all. This is not how it's done. Out of all the occult books I've ever read, I've never seen the words we, us, and once we do this. When I started looking at it, I started to see, damn, because all my life I've been trained, we as the people, us, our people, your people, we should be doing this, what we need, how we should do it. Once black men do this, or once black women do that, and black women are always this, and we need black women to do that. You've always heard and talked in terms of that. And then when I started reading more and more occult books, you don't see that. You almost feel guilty. I felt guilty. Like, tag, this is selfish. And I've said it to you. Ironically, I've saved more black people not trying to save black people than trying. All that you say this, once you said this changed my life. I was able to do this. I've seen it this way. They're having self-realizations as opposed to these group realizations that never happen. That's never happened. You could find once you find 10 black people to say one thing, you can find 10 black people to say another thing. It just never works out. This is not the way to go from the occultist standpoint. This is about levels in your consciousness. And why you'll never hear me try to convince anybody or recruit anybody is because I'm under the true understanding that you can't recruit anybody because this is about levels. You can speak this in the Kabbalion, in fact, it says, where the footsteps fall of the masters, such and such will follow, or I'm paraphrasing the next statement in the Kabbalion, but it's pretty much saying to the ears, it pretty much falls on deaf ears. No matter how well you explain yourself and how elegant you say it, if the person is not ready, it falls on deaf ears. And then, of course, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. This is all ways of saying, in the occult understanding, this is all ways of saying you cannot take someone who's not ready, no matter how eloquent you speak to it, no matter how plainly you speak to it, and they will hear your message. It falls on deaf ears. They have to be ready to hear the message. So the only thing I could do is just keep the message pure in terms of my occult understanding. And someone else who reads the occult will have their understanding. Bobby Hemmett had his way of doing his thing based upon his occult understanding. And if he has or feels he should be teaching it, or you get what I'm saying. So there's no way you can rescue anyone with the occult. You can rescue them with a good speech that feels good. And we know that doesn't even physically change their economic situation. It doesn't really rescue them. It just makes them feel good about what they're doing. It makes them feel morally engaged when you say black people and, our people and, we for the cause, we in the struggle. All of them fucking words we're used to saying, but has yielded us nothing until we now have turned in on ourselves and started just arguing with ourselves. Because we are not going to deal with any active enemy or any active situation that is an enemy to us. We don't deal with none of it. So we just start dealing with each other. Start just fighting each other in the sandbox because we can't get out of that sandbox. And, I mean, that's clear reality. I don't even have to – that's not a stretch. That's obvious. So the occultist doesn't play in that sandbox. The occultist has gone beyond the mind control that was given to us, starting with Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, it was simple. We was starting our own towns. To make it quite simple, white supremacy, you had the white elite that owned slaves, and then they had overseers, a bunch of poor white trash that be willing to crack the whip. For the poor white trash to do their job, they had to psychologically feel that they were more advanced than the Negro. No matter what shit they were eating, they just didn't eat as much shit as the Negro. So as as we're in so-called freedom, what you have was blacks starting to surpass poor whites. This upset the balance. So they started saying, we can't, let's forget this separation. We need to segregate these places. And what that did was absorb what was starting to be momentum for black people as each one of us had to be a butcher, baker, or a candlestick maker, and then came together as a community. We couldn't just come together as a community and nobody had no fucking skill. We would all cultivate a skill, then came together as a town, and then we could say, oh, this community this and community that, after we did a certain amount of work. But as we were starting to surpass poor whites, this upset the balance of the system. So then they gave us Martin Luther King and said, no, we need to go to their schools. No matter how great you make coffee, it's better to drink coffee at Woolworths and get it thrown in your face. And then then what they need is an opposition. Then they put Malcolm X in the Nation of Islam in opposition of the civil rights movement. It's the same Democrat, Republican. It's the same. The ironic thing is black people debating is a total adaptation, or I should say, we adopted straight white supremacist thought. They need opposition. For every Democrat, there has to be a Republican for it to work. So for us to just keep putting ourselves in these places of argument and opposition, that's white supremacist tactics right there, then and there. We can't even see we started to see the common thread when we came together in what we call the early conscious movement. Every single person that is now arguing had a seat in consciousness. In fact, they were elevating past whatever pathway or religion they were in, and they were starting to see that common thread in consciousness. Now it's been divided again because that's what government did. So when somebody says you're a government agent or the government is in it, yeah, because they're applying their tactics to what was consciousness. When a Moor in a Nubian used to be able to sit down together and find something that was in common, now they gotta argue. So you have to ask yourself, who's the first ones to start promoting these arguments? Who are they? And look at the lineage of what they were doing. And then this is something you may say, well, who are agents? What are agents? What would be the role of an agent? And I wasn't so flip about using agents and this, that, the other. And I'm gonna talk about this as well. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna save it for June 3rd. I don't want to go too far into what I'm gonna talk about on June 3rd. I'm gonna give it to you. But we need to question more of our psychological. We need to be able to step back and question psychologically how we're operating. And if you could see that, we're falling into so many traps. Kanye West could say something, and all of a sudden, everybody who's supposed to be conscious is actually factoring this in. When 5 minutes ago, he was just ranting on stage like a madman, and we thought he was gone. He's with a white woman, and he's dyeing his hair blonde. So why are we listening to that guy? There was a time he wouldn't even factor in. You know what I'm saying? But they want to love rap music so bad. They want to try to make something intelligent so bad because they have nothing to do. Like I said, the occult will always give you something to do because there's always something about yourself you can realize. When you're just sitting around talking about social issues, it'll just be one thing that entertains you from the next. Consciousness is now the love and hip hop of the game. It's terrible, terrible. So we have to get back to a core understanding. We have to get back to being able to step outside of the box and investigate, as opposed to we're trying to investigate with an emotional attachment to what's happening. You get what I'm saying?
Right. With
emotional attachment to what's happening. We have to now be able to step out and investigate. That's what a scientist does. He observes. So we have to be able to observe Kanye West and see what's really going on. He doesn't know nothing about Trump or Trump's policy. None of these niggas know about slavery. You're a slave right now. You say that all the time. You're still a slave. They call your job the plantation. That's a choice, but I don't see nobody quitting their job in droves. And that's just your job. We don't see them burning down nothing, tearing up nothing, doing nothing. They're going along with this shit, debating and making fucking YouTubes. So you're a slave right now. So I don't get this, and I don't get conscious people even factoring this in. This is not even intelligence to me. Forget spirituality. This is not even intelligence. So we're in a sad place. We're in a sad place. That's because we're running out of stuff to talk about. We're letting it. There was a time this was a smaller group, and the prerequisite for being in this group, it actually took a little bit more than just saying Hotep. You know what I'm saying? And I think we need to step that game up. I think we need to step. So I talk about, and I'm going to talk about in New York. I'm going to talk about, how we look on the outside, what's really happening on the bigger picture. There's a bigger picture besides the white man, in terms of what is true slavery. Your humanity itself is true slavery. Your humanity itself is true slavery. Your choice here, your choice is actually to become conscious and transcend your human thought and your human condition, or you buy into your human condition. So from my perspective, the true slave is trying to come up with an economic plan for black people, is trying to come up with better jobs and businesses for black people, is trying to come up with a better life for your children, is trying to respect and protect grandmothers and babies, because all you're really trying to do is buy into the human condition. And there's scholarship after scholarship, primarily Gnosticism, even the Kemetic thing that people pretend to follow. Everything they left in terms of a hieroglyph was how to die and never come back. So I didn't see anything about an economic plan, a diet, the no GMO doctrine, how to raise your kids. All of the stuff that we're talking about is later day stuff that white people have given you the problem that you're trying to fix. It's the best case scenario, all you have became was a white man. At the end of the day, you're using this is his system. I don't hear nobody trying to overthrow his system. I don't hear nobody saying an economic plan. Our definition of economy needs to be questioned now, because that's even been given to you. You know what I'm saying? Niggas is trying to buy stocks. Like nigga, that's their shit. You know what I'm saying? So we need to reevaluate. I could go on for days and rant for days, but I think we need to step back and reevaluate. We buy into too many things that are actually given to us, and then we think we're answering intelligently, but at the core of it, the problem itself was given to you by your enemy. See, white people don't factor in us when they make their moves. They only factor us in terms of how we would act and react to their shit and how much it would be a bother to them. Everything we do, we say a white man. That alone is how you're defeated. You walk through the door, even with your intelligence, talking about how we're going to win, still factor in your white oppressor as this dominant figure that you must somehow overcome or figure out or get beyond. He doesn't do that with you. We need to figure out how to get beyond black men for a better economy. They don't say that. We just need to figure out how to get them out the way without them fucking complaining, pretending that they're doing something, but just complaining about what we do, because they're doing whatever they do. We have to step out of them, and arguing with each other ain't going to get it. We're going to have to figure out a common understanding and understand that there are many ways to get there. There's no one way to get there, and this was starting to happen in consciousness. And then that was there. You will find people came from all walks of black thought and sat under certain teachers, Brother Bobby, Brother Phil, Health, Dr. Africa C. Freeman now, Dr. Joe Polkrams, and the list goes on. And
well, let me.
Mm-hmm.
You named some names there, Dr. Jewel Pookrum, C. Freeman, Bobby Hemmond, of course. and you're dealing with this occult perspective. And I was just reading. I forgot what book was that. What's the name of that book? Something called something about the light body. And when you're into this metaphysical information, you constantly hear about the light and how we're light body beings, and we have to activate our light. When somebody hears your information and you continue to talk about the darkness, it may get confusing to somebody coming into this information because they're trying to figure out, well, wait, just like the Star Wars, where do I go, to the dark side or to the light side? It's like it always seems like you got to pick one. So could you talk to me about going to the light versus going to this darkness that you talk about a lot?
That's perfectly said, because that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. We have this Republican versus Democrat, light versus dark. Mind you, in the Egyptian thing that they talk about, there's the law of polarity. I think it's the fifth law of polarity, fifth, I think. And like and unlike are the same, and that's at the core. So what they're talking about is what we perceive as opposites is actually the same thing. So dark and light is actually just one thing. Out of darkness comes light. Darkness and light is a process. Darkness, we have now been regulated because white men have taught you this through religion, that darkness equals evil and light equals good. It's ridiculous. Where that comes from originally is polarity of negative and positive. Negative now has mean bad and good, but negative just meant feminine, which means to draw in or pull towards you, and positive means to push away. And we're talking magnetism. That's what that's all we're really talking. That's what they're arguing about, magnetism. There's only two things you could possibly do on this planet: attract that which you want and repel that which you don't. So the process of darkness in the occult, not in Christianity or religion, which people are applying this to. I'm speaking of the occult. Darkness means that which is unknown. That which is unknown. For all these people who are trying to figure some shit out, the darkness is your house, because that's where you play in with that which is unknown. The light represents that which is known. I found the light. That just means you're in an understanding. Out of darkness comes light. Out of darkness comes light. To be a light being, you must go into that which is unknown to make it known. That's exactly what you're doing. Every time you open a book and didn't know what the shit meant, and now you know, you did the process of darkness and the light. That's all it means in the occult. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing deeper. It's the process. Religion made that bullshit deeper. And again, so all that whole rant I was talking about in the beginning is more of exactly what I'm talking about. White people have defined or have a definition over your mind socially, and while we're arguing the dynamics of it, we're not able to step out and look at what's actually happening. So I'm able to step out and look what's happening. What I see is black people who have been so religified by white men, they don't even understand their natural process. Osiris is the lord of the underworld, the dark master, the dark side shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everybody wants to be Osiris and all of this. He's the dark side because his sun represents the light side. Out of darkness comes light. Out of father comes the sun. Out of night comes the sun. We see it all the time.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell you a process. You give them saying you can't have the sunlight without darkness. So they are one and the same. The polarity is the way to master, or the hermetic master, to master the law of polarity, he becomes the middle point. He understands like and unlike are the same. Therefore, I understand both sides of the argument. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I understand both sides of the argument. So that takes the uncanny ability to step out and not be personally involved. Now, I have compassion and I do have a personal opinion about shit that goes on, but I'm not letting it consume me to where I can't do my work. You get what I'm saying? So if we're going to say he was made in a cave and he has no melanin and he ain't got this, he can't stand in the sun and da-da-da-da, then you would have to understand why he does what he does. You're not condoning why he does what he does. You're not co-signing or helping what he does, but you at least can understand it. And then you got to understand what we do and why we do it. And then if you understand what we should be doing by understanding polarity, you will understand we're not even in opposite polarity. What we're trying to do is a bad rendition of mimicking him. Everything we're trying to do is what is his idea of success, of his idea of a successful economy, or our idea of successful housing. The big house on the hill, that's his idea of housing. And so we think we're successful if we do that, and we have these businesses. He has a movie theater, movie company, so we need to make our own successful movie companies. No, we need to tear all of this shit down, because they've been classically from day one using movies to mind control since it's gotten here. So we need to make movies with mind control in it now? We're just doing what he's doing. Or do we need to stop all of this altogether and reform the world into our reality? All we're trying to do is co-sign and expand on his reality. And this is because this is a core understanding in everything. One of the basic laws of polarity are the negative, positives, darkness, light. We have changed it to good and evil. So darkness represents that which is unknown, which can, with ignorance attached to it, which is what we have, becomes fear. So when you hear people talking about fear or darkness and Baphomet and whatever thing it is, this fear is only a testimonial to their ignorance and their ignorance on how to make it light, or that they're just too dumb. They're either too dumb to understand the process or too scared to understand the process to be able to make something happen, be able to look into that darkness to make it light. You make darkness light. You make darkness light. So that's the process. And like I said, no one knows this based upon religion. So we have to understand the religion, the motif of religion, the gist of religion. We're too busy arguing the logistics of these things. It's not really about the logistics, because you will argue all day about that. That comes into the realm of opinion. What you need to argue is about the social impact of these things. And then you have to apply it to our ancient understanding and how we've seen the world. We talk about it all the time. Osiris represents the darkness. Haru represents the light. You get what I'm saying? You've seen it all the time. Satan and Jesus are the same thing, just different polarities. Mm-hmm. They connected Eve with evil based upon her having a vagina. The vagina represents the darkness. It's unknown. It's that hole. It's that black hole. The penis is all in your face. It represents positivity or positive or it's like I said, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's coming at you. Let's look at that way. And the vagina is coming in. These things come together as one understanding. One understanding. That understanding represents the child. That understanding represents, so the child of what was formerly unknown to what is known is a child of that. That child becomes your ultimate understanding. So the more and more you deal with darkness into light, the more understanding you have. And I see we're suffering from a lack of understanding of who and what we are. And that's because it's how we were trained to understand darkness. We have a white man's understanding of it, or what white men has given you. And we only talking about 1% of white men. The average white person on the street don't know shit. And they're no more threat than just their participation in white supremacy. There's 1% of white people who do know and know exactly what the fuck they're doing. And that matches pretty much the 1% of us who know exactly what the fuck we're doing in terms of our consciousness. And we're doing a hell of a flop-ass job, I'm going to tell you that, because we haven't really dealt with certain social things that are just so basic that it's actually really scary. Like the shit that I'm still dealing with, just to hear conscious people who teach, still talking about Kanye West. They're either doing it because they're ignorant, or they're doing it because they know others are ignorant and want to hear about it, and they're trying to get likes and attention, which is just as sad.